Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live broadcast. I'm Steve Altition, Director of Client Partnerships here at Pacific Cascade Legal. And today we have bankruptcy attorney Darin Wisehart to talk to us about when you should talk to a bankruptcy attorney. Hey, Darin, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, thanks for doing this. I really like this topic. And because it kind of talks really about not the law itself, but about warning signs that you may, find yourself in and make you think, you know, should I talk to an attorney? Should I not? So I really like that. And let's just kind of start, it's not, not every single debt or having debts means you talk to an attorney, but, there are some signs, aren't there, when you actually probably should.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. A lot of those signs have to do with, I mean, obviously, if you're starting to think about talking to an attorney, sometimes just that first tier is a good idea to start thinking about reaching out.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some hurdles that you want to jump before you decide to start making those calls because it's time consuming. And, attorneys, a lot of times in the bankruptcy field, a little more, I think, willing than some of the legal fields that we have. They're more willing to talk to you for that 20 minutes for free just to consult you, just to kind of get you on the right path of when that timing is going to be right. So yeah, the warning signs are definitely there, and they have to do mostly with just the debts being in a certain spot or certain type of debts.
Yeah.
There's different categories where you really want to have a neon sign to say this is the time. So let's talk to an attorney now.
I like that. Well, let's talk about, I think, one of those neon signs. It's a lot of people in bankruptcy have these issues. It's credit cards and bills.
Yep. Yeah, and when you talk about credit cards and bills, when you're talking about how much, everybody always wants to ask me, well, how much? And my answer is always sort of a legal answer, and it has to be. It has to be something to the effect of it's relative, because if you're making 100 grand a year, then having $50,000 of debt is a pretty sizable chunk of change to pay back. And the statement that I usually make, where it's not necessarily a benchmark, but it's an idea that I like to give to clients, is if it's going to take you longer than 3 years to chop this money away, then it might be a really good idea to look at what bankruptcy can do for you. Now, it doesn't always work, right? Because maybe you have some other things that play into your situation that bankruptcy might not be the right fit. But at least then you reach out and talk to somebody, try to get that solution, and whether or not it's gonna work for you. And I think that's the big one. Now, you can always talk about if your debt continues to grow, if you have your minimum payments, or you're really struggling to make those minimum payments, then the question is even more amplified. It's more important for you because you can't make the monthly bills. If it's a question between food and paying Capital One, then of course looking at bankruptcy is a good move, because now, yes, you're going to go through the negative of bankruptcy, so it's got some negatives with it, but at least you can make sure that food's on the table for your children or things like that. That's, I think it goes without saying to say that that's way more important than making sure Chase gets their money.
Yeah. What about borrowing to pay a debt, going into another debt to pay another debt?
Yeah. And now we're talking about the cycle of debt, right?
Yeah.
So when we have a big cycle, you borrow the money, you use the money, you need more money, now you borrow more money. And there's a couple of really famous training scales for these collection and payday loan type companies that have been released in discovery for lawsuits, where they have this in the training where they know that it's going to be the circle of how things go. If you're borrowing typically to pay off the other creditors, that's a real good sign that it might be a good idea to get out of that cycle. And one of the main ways to do it is bankruptcy. There's a few ways to do it. Of course, you can do reading online on how to do it, how to get out of that cycle. But getting some type of finality, some type of, hey, how do we get on a path to closing this situation, instead of just, well, now we got to take a new one. Now we got to take a new one. We got to continue doing that. That's certainly one of those methods that you want to use to, we should reach out and talk to an attorney. Is this going to be a good idea?
Yeah. What about, a lot of people, they don't consider it a loan because technically it is, but kind of borrowing from yourself, like, reaching out and taking money from your 401k, your IRA.
Now, anytime you talk about doing that, you want to talk to an attorney before you do anything like that, because in bankruptcy world and in non-bankruptcy world, there's a lot of accounts, there's a lot of things that hold money that may be protected in bankruptcy that you don't necessarily have to worry about them going anywhere. And 401k is a pretty solid protected account for the most part. Now, it's not perfect, but for the most part, it's going to be a safe area to hold money. If you pull money out of it, now there's a question of whether or not that money is accessible, or all of the different things that come in. I always like it when people call me to say, I'm thinking about bankruptcy as an option, and I have the money in the 401k, but that's my retirement. They always give me their age. I'm 45 years old. I don't want to lose this nest egg that I've really worked hard to build. And I say, you're absolutely right to do that. Do not lose your nest egg. Don't lose that 401k before you speak with an attorney, because if that's the only thing you have, a lot of times, if a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 will fit, an attorney can keep that money protected by putting what's called an exemption over it. And that, that's valuable for you, because that means in 20 years, when you're looking to retire, you've got that chunk of money there instead of pulling it out now and starting that process over. You don't have to move all the way back to square one. It's an important time to talk to that attorney.
Oh, that's a huge, huge thing. Let's move on to just missing payments, not being able to make some payments.
Yeah, and if you're, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, is that sort of an indicator, or does it become an indicator of maybe giving you a call?
Yeah, about the same thing. You're talking about the same thing as maybe you're really struggling to make the payments. You're really having a hard time with your monthly budget, and that's the minimums that start to stack up. They start to add up little at a time, or sometimes a lot at a time, depending on where they are. But if you're missing payments, you definitely want to reach out before you start or as you start missing payments, because in different categories, different debts are treated differently in bankruptcy. And I think in real life, they'd be treated differently as well. And the way I like to analyze it is, what's going to happen if you don't file? How does that go? And how can you work your way out potentially? What's your best path? And if you do file, these are the categories that everything kind of runs into. And so analyzing it in that way kind of tells you which category. I always call them cubby holes when I'm talking about bankruptcy. Which cubby hole does that debt go into? And we're talking about, people who say, well, I can't make my house payment because I need to pay the minimums on these credit cards because they're going to come after me if I don't pay them. Whereas my house might take 4, 5, 6 months to get to foreclosure, and it might take another year. In my mind, the house, if you want to stay in it, is way more important than the credit cards. And that's just because, people don't call me to lose the place that they live at, right?
Yeah.
They call me because they want to get out of that unsecured debt solution. They want a solution there. And it's not always the same thing, but it does have a lot to do with what's more important and which cubby hole is it going to go into.
We've sort of kind of hit this, but just in general, are there indicators about your borrowing habit? I mean, when you're making decisions to borrow or where from?
It definitely can. I mean, if you're starting to look at the, to use a couple of the names, the lending clubs and the upstarts, the personal loans that come online, usually that's before you take that loan. It might be a decent time to talk with the attorney. Now, of course, if you need that loan to survive, you need that loan to survive. That's it. That's the conversation. But if you're thinking, hey, we can divert some of this, maybe we take a 0 interest credit card and pay it off, pay all our cards, and then put it on this one card with the 0% that will be there for 6 months, then that could be a time to say, we're basically robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? So we're doing the moving the money around. And that's time to start talking with a bankruptcy attorney, because that's part of that cycle of, you're really not, you're not curing the problem. You're doing what's more of kick the can down the road, and maybe the income goes up. Hopefully it does. All of those things can happen in the real world to help you, but maybe it's time to just chat through what that situation is, especially because when you call a bankruptcy attorney, it doesn't mean you're filing. It doesn't mean
Right.
you have to file that next day or any of that kind of thing. Most good bankruptcy attorneys, especially in my area, they're not going to push you into filing. It's not a sales call. They're just going to give you those options of this is what it can do for you, and this is how you might be able to work through your situation with this path. And they give you the option to say, is it the right fit for me? Is it something we should do as a family?
Yeah. And just kind of want to halt just for a second and reiterate something you had said. If I call, am watching this and thinking to myself, well, I can't afford my visa payment. How can I afford to talk to you?
Hmm.
What would you say?
Easy. I get an answer for that I've had my entire career. If you think I'm going to take money from you and you meet with me, don't bring your wallet, because I don't charge $1 for meetings with me. When we're talking consults, I don't charge $1 until we know which way is right for you and you've decided that's the right path. Okay, so I'm not going to give you a fee agreement that first day. I'm not going to say, hey, there's going to be zero pressure. I love no pressure, because this is your life. This is the path that's going to get you to the best spot. And if that's the path, then that's the fitting path. But I want to be with you, not pushing you. That's kind of how I always look at it. So if you think I'm going to charge you anything, then don't ever, don't bring anything. Just bring yourself and we'll talk through your situation. And at the end of the 30 minutes, you'll have a really good idea what bankruptcy can do. And you'll probably have a better idea what other paths are available to you too, so that you're more educated on how to deal with what situation you're in.
Yep. So that's so important to know, and can help people at least get some relief from that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about what I think is probably a pretty big indicator. Legal action, when that starts happening.
Yep. Yeah, and this is the time when you get the knock on the door and you get the document. And I have these conversations with people weekly. Pretty much every week of my career, I have conversations where they'll say, I just got served this, or they'll give me this one too. I hear this all the time. Well, I heard that, the document was there and somebody said this and there was something there. And they always try to tell me, but I didn't get served. And they're probably right. But at the end of the day, if you're calling me about it, you probably knew about it. And you want to make sure you talk as soon as you get that thing, because you don't know what a creditor might be doing in the background. And some of the creditors, we have a lot of good creditors that are pretty ethical in our state, but we know creditors, and some of them may or may not play by the rules. We don't want a judgment to hit before we have a chance to talk about the situation.
Yeah.
And that's key. So as soon as you know something is there, as soon as you get served something, somebody knocks on your door, you can give me whatever story. I usually don't want to hear it too much because, I didn't sign it though, so I didn't get served. All of those things happen. But the judgment is coming. And that's a time to talk to the attorney, because judgments are different for people who own houses. Judgments are different for people who have jobs that can be garnished, bank accounts that can have money taken from them. Those are common things that happen once a judgment comes in. And, you want to make sure you're dealing with those head on rather than hoping for the best. You don't want to be hoping for the best.
And I guess that includes, and because taxes are kind of a weird area because it is so specific and so complex. But I would say in general, if they're also having a legal action against you, it might be a good time to at least talk to you.
No doubt. And typically when it comes to taxes, most people kind of sit on it for a while and they have this idea that they know they have to take care of it, but they only really do it once the burner starts to heat up. And the IRS in the last couple of years has been okay to use private collection companies to collect their debts. So they're heating up. Our state, Oregon, definitely has that idea of we're going to collect right off the bat. We're not going to wait. And so typically that's when people are calling me. But if you have a tax year that has a significant tax debt and you can't pay it, might be a good time to talk with a bankruptcy attorney. Now, a lot of times bankruptcy might not be your best path, and it depends on how much and what year and where you are with your finances in general. But all of that is that play together of I got to juggle 3 or 4 things, and taxes usually is one of those things that can get behind and it can just continue to build. And you want to make sure you speak with somebody that that deals with taxes, but also deals with bankruptcy, so that they can give you what options you have and what a blueprint might look like to take care of this debt down the road.
We talked about, like not going into your 401k for various reasons, but in general, you know, can be worried about your retirement be a reason to at least talk to you? Because, retirement is sort of the stuff that you're like banking on.
Absolutely. And you want to make sure that you're reaching out before you touch it. And that's with a loan as well, not just pulling money out or talking to your tax person about what penalties you're going to have if you do pull from it. All of the different things that have to do with 401ks, it's you borrowing from yourself if you take a 401k loan. And of course, you're paying somebody else to borrow from yourself. So it's kind of an interestingly funny conundrum. But if you're in the situation of looking at that money and thinking, I need to pay debts with it, then that's a good time to say, let me make a call to a bankruptcy attorney or two, get an opinion on how I might work my way out of this situation before I touch that money, before I move that money. And this happens a lot when people change jobs. People will change jobs and then they'll have a 401k that gets liquidated. And the option is to roll it into another 401k, keep it completely protected, or to pull the money and then maybe down the road try to put it back into a 401k. But always better to leave it in a 401k however you can and talk to somebody about the debt. And I'll talk you through, where you're at, or any bankruptcy attorney that does it can talk through what it means and where you should keep it, because that 401k is in a golden account as far as I'm concerned, as long as it stays there untouched. Yeah. And when people start taking money and doing things with it, that's when it starts adding questions about what to do, what can be done with the money.
Yeah. This one is not really, I guess, a legalistic kind of category, but it's when your mental health starts to deteriorate, when you can't sleep at night. I mean, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Probably the most important thing that we're going to say today in this conversation that we're having here. The mental health is always something that I add to every consult. And that is because I don't know every person. I am me. So I can understand me and I can understand how I work and I can understand a lot of clients. I've seen a lot of clients over my time of doing this, but I can't always attest to how the mental health is for the person on the other side of the phone or the person that's in the office looking at me at the desk. Now, if they start crying, then I know psychologically they've really been weighed down by this issue. And that's something that, if that's happening, and if you really feel like you can't work your way out of it, definitely 100% time to talk with a bankruptcy attorney, because maybe they can find that way out and get you the weight off of your shoulders moving on with life. And, I always tell people, if you're in a situation where you're kind of on the middle financially on whether it's a good move for you, my next question is, well, where are you personality wise? Are you able to say, it's debt, I don't care about it, I live my life, I go ride my bike and have fun and I do my things? Okay, if you can do that, it's a different mindset than, yeah, I'm losing sleep, I don't know where to go with this thing, I'm doing research at 3 a.m. because I can't get a wink of sleep because I'm worried about it all the time. You definitely should reach out. And I'm saying, if you're up at 3 a.m., schedule a call with an attorney at 8:30 a.m. so that you can get it off of your plate and at least get some type of, here's a path for you and here's your options. That way you don't lose. I always tell people, don't take months off of your life. This is most of the time, not always, but most of the time, these financial situations are things that we just have to work our way around. And it shouldn't be taking time off of your life. You should be able to live your life and do your things and enjoy your children and enjoy your family, all the different things that you like to do that give you quality. You should still be able to do those things, even if you have these financial things happening in the banking side of your world.
Yeah. Piggybacking right off of what you just said, let's just talk a little bit about how you, as a bankruptcy attorney, can actually help if someone gives you a call. What kind of things can you do?
Lots of things, lots of things, and they all circle around the financial side of things, right? And then they piggyback with other areas. But if you're behind on your house, then catching the house up and taking it out of the hands of the mortgage company and the people that are trying to foreclose. If you're behind on your HOA dues, you're significantly behind, and they're talking about foreclosure. Anytime somebody's talking about foreclosure where you're going to go without the home that you want to keep, time to talk to a bankruptcy attorney. There's almost always paths that you can come up with that you get back to making the house good again. Okay. If you're about to lose your car, if you're behind 2 or 3 months and you're talking about putting your car in somebody else's house so it doesn't get repoed, but you know you can pay for it, it might not be this very moment. Might be time to talk with a bankruptcy attorney. You can work your way out. Tax debt, if it's been building up for a lot of years, time to talk with a bankruptcy attorney. Credit card buildup, the normal medical debt. Medical debt usually is a little different category because they don't always come after you like a credit card would if you default. And so typically if it's adding up and it's over 20 grand, probably a good move to talk with a bankruptcy attorney before you go pay them or try to settle them. Really anything you're looking to settle that's a significant debt. If you get a business that went south and those debts, you personally guaranteed some of them, those are really good times to talk with a bankruptcy attorney because they may, one of those debts may be coming after you and they may get a judgment and then garnish wages or garnish your bank account. And you want to just try to make sure that you limit the negative if you're going the wrong direction with those things and get it moving the right direction again. You'll be surprised at how quickly most situations I can come up with a blueprint to get you to where you're able to look at things and say, yeah, I see light at the end of that tunnel again.
And that's the answer. There's so much negativity that people put on themselves. It seems like when they're gonna, thinking about bankruptcy, like, I'm a failure. I'm ashamed to do this. But just by hearing you today, you talk about that. That's not true. It's something that gets you back to your life.
Yeah.
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 I love that.
You're really just trying to turn it to, let's just get it back to that positive side. And the things that I deal with, people always talk to me that don't understand it. And I say, it can pretty much happen to anybody. And this is just something that, as life goes, we always have to deal with something. If it's not one problem, it'll be another problem. And you do the best you can with them. And when people call, my goal is to put myself right where they are. And I know what I know, which is the bankruptcy and the financial side of things. How do I get them to that better spot? What's our blueprint to get them to where we need to go? And I think that's what a lot of my clients appreciate about, getting into the path and feeling like they have weight lifted from their shoulders because we're coming up with a plan and it's not always perfect. The bankruptcy is not designed to be perfect. It's not designed to be a boom, we're done, that type of thing. They give you hurdles, but at least it gives you the path of this is how to get there. Let's try to work together to get there.
Yeah. And I love that, getting to a better spot because like you say, it's not perfect. It may not be the greatest thing, but there's always a better spot to get to. I mean, and that's what you help them do. Wow. I love that. We have blown through our time as we usually do. And I just really want to thank you for talking about this particular subject. And when the heck should I pick up the phone and call a bankruptcy attorney? Because it's something people are reluctant to do, aren't sure that the attorney's going to say, well, what the hell are you calling me for?
Yeah.
But that's not what you talk about. You talk about these are real reasons. And the first thing to do is call you, not the last thing to do is call you.
Yep. Earlier is always better. And I never said, what the heck are you calling me about? I've always said, well, okay, well, maybe you don't have something if we're talking, but most of the time you do if you're thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
Everyone else, thank you for joining us. If anyone has any further questions on today's topic, you can post it here. We can get you connected with Darin and try to get you in your better spot. So until next time, stay safe, stay